Shalom, everyone, and I want to welcome you to WOW equals Words of Wisdom number 33. Inconsistency is the enemy of growth. If you are having problems seeing growth, change, transformation in a particular area of your life, check your consistency level. That is usually the culprit, is that you're very inconsistent in doing what you need to do to see change, to see growth, to see transformation take place in your life. And when you are inconsistent in doing the things that you need to do, you're going to get inconsistent results. Shalom, good morning. Good morning. It really is important that you learn to be consistent in every area of your life. Now, you might be saying, wow, that's really hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but learning to do that, learning to focus on, doing what you are supposed to do, what you need to do, okay, consistently over time, daily, continuously, all of the time, that's when you're going to start seeing growth be a permanent thing in your life. Most of the time in our lives, we are experiencing the results of inconsistent lifestyles. And so we're upset, we're stressed out, we're full of anxiety, we're full of depression, oppression, demonic activity happens because we're inconsistent in doing the things that we need to do spiritually in our lives. A lot of times we're not consistent in our prayer lives. We don't consistently spend time in prayer, in praise, in worship, meditating in the rest of scripture. We're not consistent in living obedient lives unto Yahuwah. And so we see inconsistent results in our lives, inconsistent manifestation, a blessing, inconsistent manifestation of the promises of scripture coming to pass in our lives and being manifested in our lives on a consistent basis. So because of that, we end up, having a low level of faith and trust and confidence in the Most High Yah, because we feel like, our prayers don't get answered. Nothing ever takes place in my life that I see in scripture and things of that nature. Check your consistency. Check your consistency, because if you are inconsistent in your obedience to the Most High Yah, there is no way that he can manifest blessings consistently in your life when you are not being consistent in being obedient to the commandments of the Most High Yah. You can't hear consistently from Yah if you are not consistently having an ear to hear and receive what he is trying to tell you, what he is trying to instruct you to do in a particular area of your life, or in every area of your life. If you only want to hear what the Most High Yah has to say to you in a time of crisis, in a time of emergency, you're going to be hard pressed to hear what he has to say to you. You're not even going to really know how to approach the Most High Yah, because you haven't been consistent in doing that daily, continuously, over a long period of time. And so it's very important that we learn to be consistent in every area of our lives. What I do love about fasting, for those of you who are in the midst of our Daniel fast, and this is our third week of the Daniel fast and prayer, if you have been consistent in keeping up with the Daniel fast, and investing that time in prayer, and investing the time in the scriptures, and getting in the presence of the Most High Yah, interceding for other people, you should see some type of consistent results taking place in your life. There should be some level of breakthrough that is happening in your life, even with your body, health wise. I know for me, the biggest thing, because I've gotten off the blood pressure pills, okay, I have to really, because now what have I done? I have taken full responsibility for my health. Okay. And so the thing that happens when you take blood pressure pills, it gives you a false sense of security. It really puts you in a place where you're being lied to, that your blood pressure is okay, but really it's something, a chemical that you've put in your body to, try to force it to come down. And but you're still eating, you're not consistent in eating the way that you really should be to maintain, a healthy lifestyle, a healthy blood pressure, a healthy cholesterol level, a healthy weight, whatever the situation may, following the Daniel fast, in my health, is that I've seen my blood pressure become even more consistent in its lower, and it's consistently low. And that was like an answer to prayer. And because I'm following a consistent diet, okay, and really focusing on being consistent in what I eat. Because sometimes, even when you're doing something like the Daniel fast, even in the past when I did it, I wasn't looking at the amount of my salt intake and stuff like that, because sometimes when you cut out other things that you normally eat, sometimes you go overboard with stuff like salt. And that's what I was doing in the past. So I had to learn to stay consistent and really focus on not intaking added salt into my diet, and doing that consistently over time. That was one of the hardest things for me to do, was to learn how to be consistent in, maintaining little to no salt in my diet. Doing that consistently over time to see a breakthrough in my blood pressure being low. So, over the last several days, well, I do a journal. And see, one of the ways that you can, kind of figure out whether you're being consistent in an area is keep a journal. And I keep a health journal, with my blood pressure and my weight and things of that nature, and what I've been eating during the fast. So I can take note of that, so that when I am not on the fast, let me keep, consistent with what I was doing when I was on the fast, so that I can maintain, the same level of health, excellent health, healing, maintain my healing through being consistent in that area. So, like yesterday, my blood pressure was 117/78. And I do my left arm and my right arm, and 116/78. So it's come down. Okay. The day before that, it was 109/83 and 122/80. So it's come down. This morning, my blood pressure was 108/74 and 106/73. And like I said, I usually take my blood pressure on my left and my right arm. Okay. And so I've just been really, rejoicing and praising Yah for a level of consistency of my blood pressure really coming down, and being at a consistently good level. Now, this is without me taking any blood pressure pills at all. This is me consistently, I usually try to drink a beet smoothie, because beets are one of the things that, when I looked it up, one of the vegetables that you can eat or drink, I've been drinking them, to help lower your blood pressure naturally. And so I had to, first of all, get my palate changed because beets have a taste to them. And, I mix them with the organic applesauce, unsweetened applesauce, and organic cinnamon so that I can get rid of that earthy, dirty, muddy taste that they have with it. But I had to start becoming consistent and using natural means to get my blood pressure down, exercising on a regular basis, um, not eating after, a certain time of the day to try to keep my weight down. Because as I get older, it's harder to lose that weight and keep it off. And, so I've just been learning to be consistent in those areas. And I can tell that when I become inconsistent, my weight goes up, my blood pressure goes up, everything starts to get out of whack. And that's what happens. You'll see that even especially in your spiritual walk with the Most High Yah, you'll start seeing things happen in your life. You start seeing yourself maybe function in a way that's not consistent with scripture, because you're not being consistent in, spending time in the presence of the Most High Yah in prayer. You've not been spending time in the Word. You've been inconsistent in being obedient. And so you start to see some things manifesting in your life that you don't want, maybe judgment, death, destruction, whatever the situation may be. Now, there is a difference of, some attacks that may be happening in your life, and what have you, and you just being inconsistent and doing what you need to do. And so this is very, very important if you want to see change, lasting change that turns into transformation in your life. In scripture it says, pray without ceasing. What does that sound like? Be consistent. Be consistent in your prayer life. Okay? And you hear people say, oh, I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to do. So they don't ever start. They don't ever start the habit of praying every day. And instead of just going on ahead and start with praising the Most High Yah. Start with being thankful for what He's done for you, for what He's doing for you right now, for what you have right now, and start doing that consistently every day. And you start doing that consistently every day, and you'll start to see growth in your prayer life. You're like, oh, I don't know where to start reading in the Bible, so you don't ever do it. But if you start doing it, and you just start from the beginning, and just start reading all the way through, and just start, with maybe reading a half hour each day, and next thing you know, you'll get more into it. You'll start yearning for it and having more of a hunger and thirst to stay in scripture, and you start doing that every day, and the Most High Yah will start showing you and teaching you from scripture, from the Torah, and you'll start to grow in that area and start being consistent. We're consistent in areas of our lives where we shouldn't be. We're consistent in doing the things that we don't need to be doing. So we become really good at doing the wrong thing. Okay, we become really consistent in doing things that lead us down a path to death, destruction, stagnancy, in our spiritual walk with the Most High Yah. Things that are habit forming and addicting that, keep us from transforming into that new creation that the Most High Yah is calling us to be. And so we really and truly need to examine ourselves and look at our lives and take out that spiritual clipboard and say, where am I, being inconsistent in my life? Where have I, been up and down, up and down, up and down? And so this is why I am, constantly at this plateau in my life spiritually, where you might look at other people and go, man, it just seems like, they've came into their relationship with the Most High Yah and they have just taken off, or they started working on their health, and it just seemed like 6 months ago, and they're seeing, really, drastic results and it seems like overnight. No, it's because they're being consistent. If you exercise for 5 hours on one day and then you don't do it again for 2 months, guess what? It's going to seem like you haven't exercised at all. If you eat good for 1 week, okay, and then you don't eat good at all for another 5 months, that one day that you ate well is, canceled. It's null and void. That's how inconsistency works. And so a lot of times people don't ever really see inconsistency as the culprit to why they don't grow, why they don't grow spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, in every area of their life. It is something that you have to do all the time, consistently over time. You look at people who who are at the top of their profession, and whatever that they do for a living. It's because they've learned how to do something consistently over time. They've worked at it, they've practiced it, they've honed their craft, and that's how they became at the top of whatever it is that they do. And so that's what we've got to learn how to do in our lives. We can no longer just sit back and think and watch and think that, growth and transformation and change is going to just fall out of the sky, out of our laps, with us not doing what it takes every day, continuously, consistently, over a long period of time. We have to do our part. We have to focus. Sometimes it's a battle. Sometimes you have to fight through it, whatever it may be. And I know for me, it's like I said, I didn't know how distracted I was and how addicted I was to certain things until I started focusing on, you know, not doing things, especially when you fast. You really get to the point where you start really looking at what you're eating, what you're not eating, what you're doing, what you're not doing, and you start to see the difference. And so during this time of prayer and fasting, one of our focuses is for us to, be emotionally, physically, and mentally healed. And a lot of times when we may actually obtain healing in those areas of our lives, but we don't maintain that healing or maintain that deliverance because of the fact that we're not consistent in continuing to do whatever it is that we did to obtain the healing and obtain the deliverance and obtain the breakthrough. We start becoming inconsistent. We start falling back into old habits and old ways and old mentalities and go back into sometimes sin. And so we end up being right back into the same place that we were before, that we just got delivered from. And sometimes we end up being in a worse state than we were before. So consistency is key. Consistency is key to us growing continually and us being changed, over a long period of time, which turns into transformation. And inconsistency is the enemy of growth. If you're inconsistent, you're not going to grow. If you're inconsistent, you're not going to see, breakthrough really happen in your life. And so sometimes you got to make the hard decisions when everybody else seems like they're having fun and like, woo-hoo, over here, and life seems like it's easy for them. It may appear like that on the surface, but that's because they're just doing whatever it is, to make their flesh feel good. But when you want to grow, when you want to change, when you really want to transform, you've got to get rid of the enemy of growth, which is inconsistency. This is very, very important, especially in these last days, that we've learned to be consistent, consistent in you know, how we're thinking mentally, because we can't be wishy-washy. We can't be, inconsistent in what we believe and who we're serving and who we're praising and who we're worshiping, because we're having to make a choice. And for a lot of people, they're making it privately, but there's coming a day where we're going to have to publicly make a choice, you know and say, hey, I'm serving the Most High Yah. I am not going to serve the world system. I am not going to serve Satan. I am not going to serve celebrities. I am not going to worship idols. I am not going to live my life in this way. I am not going to be inconsistent and live my life this way over here in private, and then live my life this way in public. That's inconsistent. Okay? And we really need to learn to be consistent, because that takes you in and out, up and down. you know Good morning. Good morning, Elder Scales. Good morning. Welcome. And so we really need to you know learn to be consistent. In the word it says we're either hot or cold, but we can't be lukewarm, or the Most High Yah will spew us out of his mouth. Okay? So we've got to learn to be consistent in how we think. So that means you got to renew your mind, okay? And what we say out of our mouths, how we live our lives, everything must be consistent. We must be consistent in how our lives align with the Torah and the rest of Scripture. And growth. If we want to see growth in our own lives, if we want to see growth and consistent change and transformation in our own lives, in our marriages, in our families, in our communities, it starts with you. It starts with me individually, and then it branches out from there. This is very, very important that we drive out the spirit of inconsistency out of our lives if we're really going to see breakthrough happen in our lives. And all of us are praying and believing and asking the Most High Yah for something, for breakthrough in our lives. But check your consistency level. Check your consistency level. If you're being inconsistent, you're sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes level to the ground, and doing what you're supposed to be doing, you have got to change that. You have got to change that, and you've got to start being more consistent over time. So think about that as you go through not only the rest of this time of Daniel fasting and prayer. Think about all of the things that you may have been learning during this time of prayer and fasting, and keep up with that. Continue being consistent with the positive things that you have been learning and doing and growing in. Don't fall back into, old mindsets and old habits that bring you back into inconsistency and keep you in, stagnancy and, keep you going backwards. We want to move forward in our relationship with the Most High Yah. We want to move forward in our marriage relationships. We want to move forward in our families. We want to move forward in our communities. We want to drive out dysfunction out of our lives. And a lot of times, that dysfunction is undergirded by inconsistency. And so we become consistent in living in dysfunction. And so we want to drive dysfunction out of our lives. Okay. And we want to start being consistent and renewing our minds so that we can know how we're supposed to be functioning consistently according to the Torah and the rest of Scripture. Okay. This is very, very important. We all of us know what it's like to live in dysfunction. on some level. But as I have continued to really start looking at every area of my life and examine it, and I've started to really experience breakthrough in different areas of my life, um, and started really experiencing a level of peace, that comes from Yah, that passes all human understanding, and I've been able to experience it consistently over time. When people come around me and they are coming with, chaos and dysfunction and inconsistency and indecision and drama and all of their baggage, and they're trying to bring that into my life, because I have started experiencing peace consistently and I know what that feels like that now. I'm like, I stop them at the door, because I don't want to be pulled back in to an inconsistent lifestyle. I don't want to be pulled back in to an inconsistent mindset, you know, which can, tumble me back down into, being stagnant, moving backwards, judgment. If I end up sinning, if I end up, doing that, of course, I open the door for demonic activity, for the enemy to get a foothold in my life. I end up bringing judgment upon myself. You know what I mean? A level of judgment, a level of chastisement, because I know better. Okay. And so you have to be the one who protects consistency in your life. You have to be the one, okay? You have to be the one to say no to inconsistency, no to dysfunction, no to being lukewarm, no to straddling the fence, because that's nothing but inconsistency. When you don't, stand firm on one side or the other, you have to be the one. And you can't allow people to, drag you into what they're into, that brings you into a place of inconsistency and is going to keep you from growing and continuously growing from glory to glory and from faith to faith. Okay. So think about that as you go throughout your day today. Like I always say, take out that spiritual clipboard and do a spiritual inventory of your own life, and look at where you are and look at the different areas of your life where, you have just been in and out, up and down, and our health is always a big one. Our health is always a big one, because we can see that right away. We can see that. We can see when our weight goes up. We can see when our blood pressure goes up. We can see when our cholesterol goes up. We can see when it's down. And like I always say, keep a journal. Keep a journal. Keep a journal about your prayer requests. Keep a journal about your, that's about your prayer life. Keep a journal about your finances. Keep a journal, about your health, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your, whatever, your weight. And so that you can keep up with what's going on in your life. Don't let it be that somebody else always has to tell you when something is going wrong in your life. You be the one and say, oh, inconsistency is coming in. I got to drive that out. No inconsistency here. Okay. So think about that as you go throughout your day to day. Meditate on it. Pray and ask the Most High Yah to show you the areas of your life where you have been inconsistent, and ask him, for the wisdom and the knowledge and the revelation knowledge that you need to really start living consistently and doing what you need to do on a consistent basis, continuously, daily, in every single area of your life. So I just want to thank you for joining me for WOW equals Words of Wisdom number 33. And I pray that you have a consistent, positive, powerful, and productive day. Shalom.